Let's talk about Kagurabachi chapter 54. And after Chihiro no-diffs HURIHIKO, and this chapter is an info dump about the Hishaku's plans. And we finally get a name drop from the leader of the Hishaku, but that will come later in the video. Let's get on to our chapter review. Welcome. If this is your first time finding my channel, make sure you hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. As if you're interested in weekly breakdowns of chapters from your favorite series such as Kagurabachi, Sakamoto Days, Boruto, Chainsaw Man, and even Hunter x Hunter. This will be your weekly stop for all things anime and manga. On to the video. This chapter starts off with the Hishaku leader, who we now know is named Yura, and we finally get a name drop of this mysterious figure who we seen in the Raikuzachi arc. And like the leader, he's still pulling the strings from behind. As he says, he's got the basic gist of the Kamonabi strategy. They're shoring up their fighting powers at each fortress in anticipation of an attack. And if they're willing to incorporate a maverick like Chihiro as part of that, they're clearly stretched thin. And Yura right here is right on the money, because as we know, the Kamonabi does not have that many forces, as we learned in one of the previous chapters a while back. And what Yura is not so sure of is Toga Shiba's position. And Shiba is like Chihiro's godfather, so to speak. And his sorcery is basically teleportation, but at the moment that's all we know about him because all of his fights are off screen. So hopefully sometime soon we see him fight. He may even come toe to toe with Yura at some point in the near future. Yura then says there's a whole range of skill levels in the world of sorcerers, and he's at the very pinnacle. We really struggled to get past him 3 years ago. More Shiba glaze. And honestly, I'm all for it, as Shiba is one of my favorite characters in the entire series, next to Hayuki, that is. Yura then says, in any case, the Kamonabi still refuses to divert manpower from their Tokyo headquarters. It must be to protect the Swordmaster. They must be harboring him somewhere in Tokyo. And the Swordmaster was the one remote controlling the Shinu-chi at the Raikuzachi auction. And I'm excited to see what the Shinu-chi and the power of the Swordmaster bears, as just with the showing of the sheathed blade, it was able to keep up with Chihiro. And we even seen Chihiro takes a page out of the Shinu-chi's book, which I thought was pretty cool. Yura then says, these old goats have ironclad defenses. We'll need at least an enchanted blade to infiltrate their headquarters. Then the henchman that Yura is on the phone with says, then it all hinges on killing a contracted sword bearer. Is this really wise? Entrusting HURIHIKO with such a crucial mission? Yura then asks what's the matter, as he tells him HURIHIKO managed to catch up with Uraha, but then that fool. What the henchman was gonna say is that instead of continuing with the mission, he intended to play with Chihiro. Yura then says if he's still controlling the troops, then there's no problem. In fact, it's a good opportunity. HURIHIKO's gifts in battle are invaluable. His sorcery can hardly be called powerful, but he's evolved it to an amazing extent. He'll master an enchanted blade quickly. And it seems like after getting no-diffed by Chihiro, this HURIHIKO guy, it might be a big deal. And if he's anything like the community has been branding him as, the next Mahito, or if the community likes him enough as if they did Sojo, he's going to quickly become a Kagurabachi favorite, especially if he gets an enchanted blade. Yura then says, but I haven't let him experience the world much yet, so he's still psychologically immature. It'll be good for him to interact with Chihiro some before he obtains the enchanted blade. The Hishaku henchman basically then goes on to say, what if Hiko messes up? Yura then reassures the guy that they have a number of backup plans, including their trump card, and says that they set this whole thing up just for a growth of Hiko. As Yura says, we set this up so that they could afford to screw up, so there's no need to stress. And the Hishaku has to be making some big plans, even bigger than what we've seen so far, and it might not stop at just getting the enchanted blades. And for Hiko, screwing up, losing a battle, and learning how the enemy thinks is all a good learning experience. So at the moment, this is all just practice for Hiko, as he was pretty much sheltered and has no battle experience. And him meeting Chihiro was the perfect fate. We cut back to Chihiro standing over Hiko menacingly, and he says, now spill everything. And this is funny because it kind of reminds me of like Batman, because Batman will literally just beat the hell out of you and then just be like, now talk. Like, bro, I'm missing an arm, I got 4 bruised ribs, and my nose is bleeding. And Hiko thinks to himself, after he took the onslaught of my cranes, suddenly everything went black. Then he asked Chihiro, what did you do? Chihiro explains that he used Kuro to do the same thing that Hiko was doing to him. And filling the space with goldfish as so that Hiko did with paper. He was able to detect where Hiko was, and Chihiro accurately deduces that the cranes, once they're used, they die. And also that Hiko has to fold the cranes up, and instead of using Kuro to fill the space initially, he left himself open so that the cranes will be all used up. Then Hiko thinks to himself, why would he use himself as bait just to protect these people? Chihiro says, so long as they're safe, I don't care. It doesn't matter how they see me. Killing is horrible. Yes, we're both killers, but I refuse to accept your ways. But killing is killing, and not all killings are the same. I refuse to accept that. Hiko then thinks to himself, I don't get it. Like me, his sole purpose in life is to kill. Now we finally meet? Then why? Why don't I get it? But you're like me. Why don't you understand? If we can meet each other and connect, then he says out loud, we're the same. Trying to get his Shibuya I am you speech in. And in this moment, it seems more of like Chihiro is the Mahito in this situation. As Mahito understood, we're two sides of the same coin. Chihiro shuts down Hiko's train of thought and says no. That's why we seek to kill each other. Then Hiko has an epiphany and says to himself, I get it. We seek to kill each other because we're different. That's why, when we meet, we fight to the death with everything we got. This is friendship. They got their own version of friendship because my version does not look like this. Then Hiko begins to talk and tells Chihiro everything he knows. The Hishaku is a small group of 10 sorcerers. Our leader is a man called Yura. You met him at the Raikuzaichi. Our current plan, as you know, is to attack the fortresses. For this operation, we hired 68 outside sorcerers. We had 34 Daten-seki weapons at our stockpile. And for this task, I was given total command of all of our forces, including the Hishaku members. We cut back to Yura on the phone and says that the security has been beefed up at each fortress. I'm sure they've reinforced their other countermeasures too. I think it's a smart move. Well, it's a smart move, but it's also a gamble. We deployed just enough firepower to match 4 fortresses. It's just like him to place an all or nothing bet. I love it. So Hiko accurately deduced that they need to send all of their forces to the Senkatsuji temple, as that temple they have Seiichi the blind dude, who's really far, and says that Hiko is extremely resistant to using their trump card. We then cut to the Senkatsuji temple as Seiichi is taking down all of these sorcerers one by one. And we see after each one dies, they all explode from the Daten-seki, and it seems it destroys the whole temple. We cut back to Hiko and Chihiro's conversation. As Hiko says, for personal reasons, I dispatched all of that fighting power to Senkatsuji, and he apologizes to Chihiro for not showing up with a proper weapon. But now everything's ready, and soon we'll be on the same playing field. And this is not even hinting at Hiko will get a weapon. This is like foreshadowing, or even just telling us outright that this is going to happen. And he says that then we will battle to the death as equals. And unless Hiko is going to get his arms, both of them by the way, both of his arms sewn back onto his body, I don't know what kind of fighting he's going to be able to do with Chihiro. We then cut back to Senkatsuji Temple, as Hakuri and Yoji think this is bad and we have to move. And Hakuri is still being prepped for his Zenkai boost, or his potential unlocked really. As I feel, not only will this operation allow him to be able to use his storage powers again, but it may definitely improve it, just so Hakuri doesn't get power scaled into oblivion. As we get a cliffhanger to what's about to happen in the next chapter, as we see Seiichi is about to face off against a guy who we first seen appear in the first couple of chapters of the manga. And I'm certainly hyped for the next chapter, as this one should be Seiichi centered, and the last time we seen him battle, it was amazing. Now that's all for Kagurabachi chapter 54, and if you made it this far, let me know what you guys think of Hiko. Will he be a better villain than Sojo? And will we see Shiba in some time in the next couple of chapters? That's all for today's video. It's been Otaku Talks.